preparing, adjusting entries, asset method, and expense method. On April 1, 2020, Falco Grinders acquired cleaning supplies in the amount of 260,000. Account of supplies on December 31, 2020 amounted to 110,000. So, ang nangyayari, noong April 1, 2020, bumili si Falco Grinders ng supplies worth 260,000 pesos. Pagdating ng December 31, 2020, 110,000 na lang yung value ng supplies nila. From 260, naging 110,000 na lang. So, yung difference no figures ng 260,000, which is yung supplies na binili noong April, and yung 110,000 na worth of supplies noong December 31, 2020, yung difference nilang dalawa is yun yung deemed na supplies na na-consume. Yun yung supplies na nagamit for the year. Number 1, assume that Falco Grinders record this transaction using office supplies account. What will be the adjusting entry on December 31, 2020? And number 2, assume that Falco Grinders record transaction using office supplies expense account. What will be the adjusting entry on December 31, 2020? So, application ito ng asset method and expense method. Unahin natin yung number 1. Adjusting entry ang gagawin natin to record yung supplies na nagamit. So, bago natin gawin yung adjusting entry, gawan muna natin ng journal entry yung nangyaring transactions dun sa problem. So, number 1 muna tayo. Ito muna ang sasagutan natin. Number 1, to record yung April 1 transaction. April 1, debit. Ang sabi dito, assume that Falco Grinders record this transaction using office supplies account. Meaning, kapag daw bumibili ng office supplies si Falco Grinders, office supplies ang kanyang ginagamit na account to record yung acquisition. So, susundin lang natin yung number 1, debit, office supplies na 260,000 pesos. Credit, cash, or accounts payable or any appropriate account, 260,000 pesos. Next, account of supplies on December 31, 2020 amounted to 110,000. So, magre-record na tayo ng adjusting entry for the year ended December 31, 2020. Anong amount ng adjusting entry? Tsaka, ano yung magiging entry natin? And anong method din yung gagamitin natin? Asset method ba or expense method? Okay. Paano natin malalaman kung asset method or expense method? Titingnan lang natin yung originating entry. Yung kasing adjusting entries ng deferral and accrual, palagi yung may originating entry. May pinagmumula na entry yan. So, sa case na to, ang pinagmula na entry ay itong na-record natin ng April 1. Ngayon, meron na tayong originating entry. Anong method? Asset method ba or expense method? Ang gagamitin nating method dito sa number 1 ay asset method. Bakit siya asset method? Para malaman nyo kung asset method ba or expense method, tingnan nyo lang yung originating entry. Ito lang yung magsasabi sa inyo kung asset method or expense method. So, sa case na to kasi, ang debit niya ay office supplies, which is asset account. So, kailangan natin computein yung amount ng cleaning supplies na nagamit. So, to compute yung amount ng cleaning supplies na nagamit, consider natin yung supplies beginning. So, sa case na to, wala kasing supplies beginning. So, 0. Add supplies purchase. Lahat ng mga biniling supplies. Sa case na to, 260,000. Ibig sabihin, beginning plus total acquired supplies, yon yung total supplies available for use. Total supplies available for use is 260,000. Ngayon, sa 260,000 na yan, pagdating ng December 31, 2020, nung nagbilang na ng supplies si Falco Grice, na-determine niyang 110,000 na lang yung natitira. Out of 260, naging 110,000 na lang. So, yung difference na, yan yung supplies used. 150,000 pesos. Okay, na-determine na natin ang supplies used. So, kailangan na natin i-record yung supplies used. Yung amount ng nagamit na supplies, yun yung portion ng expense natin for the office supplies. So, to record yung supplies na nagamit, debit office supplies expense, what amount? 150,000. Credit office supplies, 150,000 pesos. Okay. Dapat, pagdating ng December 31, 110,000 na lang yung balanse ng ating office supplies. So, meron kang debit na 260 dito. Then, may credit kang 150,000 na office supplies dito. Therefore, ang net debit balance niya ay 110,000, which is equal dun sa amount ng natirang supplies noong December 31, 2020. Okay, kung ilalagay natin yan sa T account, yun na lang sa ilalim, office supplies. So, may balance na 260,000 para sa acquisition ng April 1. Then, nabawasan siya ng 150,000 sa ating adjusting entry. Therefore, debit balance ng office supplies ay 110,000, which is equal dun sa amount na natira na supplies noong December 31, 2020. Okay, so number 2 naman tayo. Assume that Falco Grice Grinders record this transaction using office supplies expense account. What will be the adjusting entry on December 31, 2020? So, kanina dun sa problem number 1, ang ginagamit niyang account to record yung acquisition ng supplies ay office supplies. Sa number 2 naman, ang assumption, nire-record ni Falco Grice Grinders ang mga transactions niya na acquisition ng cleaning supplies using office supplies expense account. So, ulitin lang din natin yung ginawa natin dun sa number 1 na gagawin ulit natin yung originating entry. So, sa number 2 naman, ang originating entry niya, lagyan natin ng boundary. Dito yung number 2 sa kabilang side. Nung April 1, 2020, bumili ng cleaning supplies, 260,000. Nasa number 2 tayo, ang assumption, the company record this transaction using office supplies expense account. So, yung transaction na nangyari nung April 1, ni-record siya ni Falco Rice Grinders debit office supplies expense na magkano yun? 260,000. Credit cash 260,000 pesos. Okay. Ito na yung main requirement. Magre-record na tayo ng adjusting entry. So, ang nire-record natin dito sa number 1 at sa number 2, kailangan nating i-record yung adjusting entry para mag-reflect yung amount ng expense. Kailangan nating gumawa ng adjusting entry para mag-reflect yung correct expense amount. So, dito, alam naman natin na hindi dapat office supplies expense yung buong 260,000. Kasi, hindi naman lahat yan nagamit. Kumbaga, hindi naman lahat yan ay na-consume. So, hindi mo dapat i-record ng buo as expense yung acquisition mo ng supplies noong April 1. Kasi nga, ang nire-record lang natin na expense ay yung nagamit. So, babalik tayo dun sa computation ng supplies na nagamit. So, magko-compute ulit tayo. Supplies, beginning, wala. Then, supplies, purchased, 260,000. Then, total none would be the total supplies available for use, which is 260,000. Ngayon, pagdating ng December 31, ang supplies na lang na natira ay 110,000. Therefore, yung nagamit na supplies ay 150,000 pesos. So, inulit lang din talaga natin totally yung ginawa natin sa asset method na computation. Kasi, kailangan nga nating i-record yung correct na supplies na nagamit, which is 150,000. Ngayon, kung titingnan natin yung office supplies expense, 260,000 siya before adjusting entry. Yung 260, dapat 150,000 na lang. So, kung ilalagay natin yan sa ating T account, so dito na lang, T account, office supplies expense. Ang naka-record, debit, 260,000 pesos. Pero, magkano lang dapat ang office supplies expense? Dapat 150,000 lang. So, dapat ang ending balance nito 150,000, hindi 260. Kasi, yun yung nagamit na office supplies. And, kung 150 yung dapat na expense at may naka-record kang 260, ibig sabihin, kailangan mong bawasan ito ng 110,000 pesos. Para maging 150,000 yung amount ng office supplies expense, which is yun yung correct na amount. So, to record yung adjusting entry, so, may credit na dito na office supplies expense. So, yung adjusting entry natin, sigurado na tayo na meron yung involved na credit office supplies expense na 110,000. Ay, ano yung debit nan? Yung debit nan would be office supplies 110,000. Pag pinost natin itong adjusting entry na to dito sa office supplies expense, magiging 150,000 na lang yung balance ng office supplies expense, which is yun yung correct amount. And kapag pinost din natin yung office supplies na debit, office supplies 110,000, na i-reflect na rin natin sa asset yung correct na office supplies account, which is 110,000 pesos. And itong number 2 ay expense method. Kanina ginamit natin asset method. Ito, expense method. Paano nating nasabi na expense method? Titingnan ulit natin yung originating entry, which is ito. Dinebit niya yung originating entry sa office supplies expense account. And itong account na to ay expense. Kasi expense yung ginamit niya as debit dun sa originating entry. Kaya siya expense method. So, mapansin natin sa ginawa natin sa number 1 at sa number 2, ang common sa kanila, kinompute natin yung total supplies na nagamit. Kung asset method yan or expense method, kailangan nating malaman yung amount na supplies na nagamit. And saka natin i-correct or i-adjust yung ating mga accounts. Okay, question. Sa method or sa question number 1, sa requirement number 1, magkano ang total balance ng office supplies? Actually, na-compute na nga natin. Ito, 110,000. Magkano naman ang balance ng office supplies expense? Nasa na mga office supplies expense dito? 150,000. Office supplies expense, 150,000. Galing sa adjusting entry natin. Ngayon, same question. Dito naman sa requirement number 2. Magkano ang balance ng office supplies? Nasa na yung office supplies dito? So, walang office supplies na account dito. Tapos, may debit dito na office supplies. So, 110,000. How about balance ng office supplies expense under requirement number 2? Okay, may office supplies expense ditong debit. Then, may credit ditong office supplies. Ganito siya pag pinost. 150,000. So, pansin natin whether asset method or expense method, pareho silang nag-a-arrive sa bawat should be na amount. So, sa case na to, office supplies is 110 under asset method. Office supplies is 110,000 under expense method. Parehas. Ganun din yung office supplies expense under asset method. And office supplies expense under expense method, both 150,000. So, parehas lagi yan ng amount dapat na account. Pero, nagkakaiba lang talaga sila sa adjusting entry. Bakit sila nagkakaiba sa adjusting entry? Dahil dito sa kanilang mga originating entry. Kasi magkaiba sila ng ginamit na account. Pero ang common sa kanila, dapat ma-record natin yung correct na supplies na nagamit at yung correct na supplies at the end of accounting period.